the unexpected visitor. The rain fell hard that night. Big drops hit the roof of the small farmhouse, making a loud, steady rhythm. Inside, James sat by the fire, sipping his tea, listening to the storm. The chickens in the coop outside were quiet, huddled together, waiting for the rain to stop. Suddenly, a strange sound came from the chicken coop. It wasn't the usual clucking or scratching. It was a soft, wet noise, almost like someone crying. James frowned. He put down his cup and stood up. The old wooden floor creaked under his feet as he walked toward the door. "Who's out there?" he called, but only the rain answered. The sound grew louder. It came from the corner of the coop. James grabbed a flashlight and went outside. The rain soaked his clothes instantly, but he didn't care. Something was in the coop. As he opened the small gate, he froze. There, huddled in the straw, was a creature unlike anything he had ever seen. It was small, about the size of a child, with long, slender arms and big, round eyes that reflected the light. Its skin shimmered slightly like silver under the rain. Wet feathers, or maybe hair, stuck to its body. It looked terrified. James stepped back. What are you?" he asked. The creature didn't answer. Instead, it shivered and whispered in a strange, soft voice. I just needed shelter from the rain." James blinked. The voice was gentle, almost human. And yet, it wasn't human. He didn't know what to do. His mind raced. Could it be dangerous? Could it hurt him or the chickens? He felt fear, but also a strange curiosity. The creature's big eyes looked at him, pleading. James took a deep breath. He slowly stepped closer. "Okay, you can stay," he said, surprising even himself, "but don't touch the chickens." The creature nodded. It crawled a little closer, still shivering. James noticed its hands. They were delicate, almost like a human's, but the fingers were longer, more flexible. Its eyes followed his every move. Somehow he felt a connection with this strange being, even though he didn't understand why. For the next few minutes, the rain continued to fall, drumming on the roof and soaking the straw in the coop. James got some old blankets and carefully wrapped the creature. It made a small, grateful sound. Its eyes glimmered with relief. You're not from here, are you?" James asked quietly. The creature tilted its head and whispered, "No, I'm from far away. I didn't mean to scare anyone. I only wanted shelter." James nodded slowly. The storm outside seemed louder now, more urgent. Something about the way the creature spoke made him believe it. He didn't know what far away meant, but he could see the fear in its eyes. And he knew one thing: he couldn't let it stay out in the storm. Suddenly, there was a flash of lightning. The creature flinched and hid its face in the blanket. James noticed its skin shimmer more under the lightning's light. It looked magical, fragile, and otherworldly. He realized that this was not just an animal, not even a human. This was something different, something extraordinary. James sighed and sat down on the edge of the coop. "Okay, you can stay tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out what to do." The creature curled up on the straw, safe under the blanket. Its big eyes stayed open, staring at him. James felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. He didn't know what this creature was or where it came from, but he had a feeling that his life would never be the same again. Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, a small, strange visitor was hiding in the chicken coop. And that night, James didn't just hear the rain. He felt the beginning of something far bigger than he could imagine. Something that could change everything. Secrets in the coop. The morning after the storm, the sun rose slowly, casting soft light over the small farm. James stepped outside carrying a cup of coffee and glanced at the chicken coop. The creature was still there, hidden under the blankets, sleeping peacefully. Its small chest rose and fell, and for a moment James almost forgot how strange it was. Almost. He cleared his throat. "Morning," he said softly. The creature's eyes opened slowly. They were larger than yesterday, almost glowing in the morning light. It tilted its head, studying him with curiosity. Then it spoke in its gentle, almost musical voice. "You fed me yesterday. Why?" James scratched his head. "I don't know," he admitted. "I guess. I didn't want you to get sick, and I didn't want you to be alone." The creature blinked, then smiled faintly. Its smile was strange, almost too perfect, yet it warmed James in a way he couldn't explain. It stood slowly, brushing the straw from its shimmering skin. The sunlight revealed tiny patterns on its arms, like glowing lines, faint and moving, almost like circuits. James leaned closer, but quickly stepped back. He had never seen anything like it. As the days passed, the creature began to settle into the coop. James named her Lyra, after a constellation he remembered from his childhood. Lyra learned quickly. She knew the chickens' habits, predicting when they would lay eggs. At night she would hum softly, and James swore the chickens responded, following her gentle movements like she was some kind of leader. But Lyra had secrets. James noticed the first one the second night. He had left the coop door slightly open, and the next morning several eggs were missing, but the chickens hadn't moved. James looked closer. Lyra was crouched near the straw, her fingers tracing patterns in the dirt. When he asked her what she was doing, she simply said, "Communicating." "Communicating?" James asked, puzzled. "Yes," she said softly. "With them?" "With the world," she paused. "It's hard to explain." James didn't press. Some things he realized didn't need explanation yet, but a tiny thrill ran through him. Lyra wasn't just a visitor. She was something extraordinary, maybe even magical. And there was more. One evening, lightning flashed in the distance, painting the sky in bright white. Lyra flinched, a shadow crossing her shimmering skin. James noticed her eyes darting toward the horizon, tense and alert. "What is it?" he asked. She shook her head. They might be coming." "I feel them." James froze. "Who? What?" Lyra's gaze went distant. "Hunters. They follow me. From far away." Her voice dropped, almost a whisper. "They are not like us. They want me gone." James swallowed hard. His mind raced. Hunters? What did that mean? From far away? Suddenly, everything he thought he knew about his quiet farm life vanished. He was no longer just a farmer. He was a protector, a witness to something much bigger than Earth itself. Days turned into nights filled with small signs of danger. Strange lights appeared in the distance, flickering and moving unnaturally. Sometimes the wind carried a faint hum, almost like a signal. James realized Lyra's warnings were real. She wasn't lying. The world outside was slowly closing in. But in the coop, amidst the tension, there was also wonder. Lyra began showing James small abilities. She could move objects without touching them, lifting a bucket of water with ease. She could make the chickens follow her in patterns, almost like they were dancing. James watched, amazed and terrified. One night, as he prepared to leave the coop, Lyra touched his arm gently. "James," she said softly, "if they come, you must protect me." James felt a shiver run down his spine. He didn't fully understand what he was promising, but he knew one thing for certain. His life had changed forever. The quiet farm, the simple days were gone. He was now part of something vast, something he could not yet comprehend. And as he looked at Lyra, shivering under the blanket yet radiating light and mystery, he realized one undeniable truth. The chicken coop was no longer just a shelter from the rain. It was the first line of defense in a war he had not yet begun to understand. The hunter arrives. The nights had grown darker since the storm, and James couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching. He stayed close to the coop, checking the perimeter, listening to the wind and scanning the shadows. Lyra moved quietly beside him, her large, shining eyes alert. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. James froze. The sound was not like anything he had ever heard. It vibrated in his chest, a mechanical, alien rhythm. Lyra stiffened, her fingers brushing the dirt nervously. "They are close," she whispered. "Hunters. They found the signal I left behind. They are coming for me." James's heart pounded. "Hunters? How many?" Lyra shook her head. "I do not know, but we have little time." She looked around, scanning the darkness. "They move like shadows, but faster than anything on Earth." Within moments, bright lights appeared at the edge of the forest. Small hovering drones flickered in and out of sight. James stepped back, shielding his eyes from the sudden glow. The hunters were real, and they were already near. Lyra moved toward the coop, her long fingers tracing the ground. James noticed small symbols glowing faintly beneath her touch. The symbols shimmered in the dark, forming a protective pattern around the coop. "This will hide us, for now," she said. "But it won't last long." The drones circled above, scanning, humming, searching. James held his breath. He could see no pilot, no engine, just smooth black shapes floating silently. Then a beam of light shot across the field. One of the drones had found the chicken's footprints outside the coop. "Move," Lyra hissed. She grabbed James's arm and pulled him inside the coop. The chickens squawked in panic as the light passed over them. Inside, Lyra pressed her hands against the walls, muttering words James couldn't understand. The walls began to shimmer, bending light around them. It was like they had vanished. James stared in disbelief. You're hiding us? Lyra nodded, her eyes serious. They cannot see through this. But they will not leave easily. The humming grew louder. More drones arrived, scanning the farm in tight formations. James could hear them communicating. A clicking, metallic chatter that made his skin crawl. He realized they were intelligent, organized, and relentless. Hours seemed to pass. The storm had returned, lightning flashing over the fields. James and Lyra crouched together, barely breathing. Every shadow outside could have been another drone. Every sound could have been a hunter approaching. Suddenly, one drone hovered closer, almost touching the coop. Its beam pierced the protective shimmer. Lyra's hands moved quickly, tracing new symbols, stronger, brighter. The light bent and twisted, unable to see inside. The drone let out a sharp metallic screech and retreated. James's hands shook. How can you do that? Lyra looked at him, her eyes softening. I am not just hiding. I am protecting. They cannot take me, not while I choose to stay here. The night stretched on. The hunters did not leave. They circled, waiting, probing, testing the protective shimmer. James felt a mix of awe and fear. Lyra was powerful, but even she had limits. Before dawn, Lyra whispered, James, soon we must move. They will find a way through if we stay. Tonight was only the beginning. James nodded, understanding the weight of her words. Their quiet life on the farm was gone. The hunters had arrived, and Earth had unknowingly become a battlefield. But for now, in the chicken coop, a human and an alien mother stood together, hiding from a danger far greater than either of them had ever imagined. And as the first rays of sunlight touched the fields, the hum of the drones faded, but James knew it was only temporary. The hunters were out there watching, waiting, and they would not give up, bonding and understanding. After the terrifying night of hovering drones and alien hunters, the farm fell eerily quiet. James sat on the porch, sipping lukewarm coffee, while Lyra crouched near the coop, brushing straw from her shimmering skin. The first light of dawn made her glow faintly, as if the sun recognized her presence. James hesitated, then asked, How do you do it? The light, the protection. Lyra looked at him, her big reflective eyes serious. It is part of me, she said softly. It is how I survive, and how I survive, others may survive too. She paused. But I cannot hide forever. I must learn to trust. James nodded, unsure what to say. He realized trust wasn't easy for either of them. The world outside was dangerous, but here, inside this tiny farm, they had a fragile bubble. A bond was forming, and it was strange, unnatural, and comforting. Over the next few days, James began observing Lyra more closely. She moved with purpose, yet always cautiously. She seemed to sense everything around her, the wind, the chickens, the shifting shadows. One afternoon, while James repaired a fence, he saw her place her hand near a hen. The chicken froze, then suddenly hopped onto her arm, cooing softly. James blinked. You'd talk to them? Lyra smiled faintly. Not with words, with thoughts, with feelings. They understand more than you think. He laughed nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. You're incredible. Lyra tilted her head. And you are kind. Most humans would have run, or harmed me. You did not. James felt a warmth spread through him. He had always felt alone on this farm, even with neighbors nearby. But Lyra's words, they pierced through something deeper. He wasn't just a farmer now. He was a protector, a friend, maybe even a student of something far bigger than himself. That night, as the stars appeared, Lyra led him outside. She raised her arms slowly, palms glowing faintly in the moonlight. James watched in awe as the chickens moved in patterns around her, almost like a dance. The symbols she traced in the dirt pulsed with soft light, and the air seemed to hum. You can see it? She asked. James nodded, speechless. It's beautiful. It is harmony, Lyra whispered. Even in fear, even in danger, there can be balance. This is how I survive. This is how I protect life. For the first time, James understood that Lyra's presence was more than a coincidence. She was not just hiding. She was teaching, sharing, showing him a glimpse of a universe far beyond Earth. And he was part of it, even if he didn't fully comprehend it yet. But the peace was short-lived. In the distance, a flicker of light caught James's eye. He squinted. A drone hovered near the edge of the forest, scanning, searching, waiting. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "They are patient," she said quietly. "Hunters wait for mistakes." "For weakness," James swallowed. He realized that the bond he was forming with Lyra was not just friendship. It was trust, survival, and responsibility. If she failed, or if he failed, neither of them would survive the next encounter. That night, as James settled in the farmhouse, he watched Lyra curl in the corner of the coop. She hummed softly, a melody he could not understand, but it made him feel safe, almost as if the universe itself had wrapped its arms around the farm. He realized something profound. Life here had changed. Danger was closer than ever, but so was connection. Lyra was teaching him courage. She was teaching him hope, and, in a strange way, she was teaching him that even in a world filled with hunters, fear and unknown threats, bonding and understanding could become the greatest weapons of all. As the night deepened and the wind whispered through the trees, James finally allowed himself to rest. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, more shadows, and perhaps the hunter's return. But tonight he had learned something far more valuable. That connection, trust, and understanding could shine even in the darkest moments. And Lyra. She was no longer just a stranger hiding in a chicken coop. She was a teacher, a protector, and perhaps the key to a world he had only just begun to understand. The first attack. The farm was quiet that evening. But the calm felt fragile, like a thin glass about to shatter. James was in the farmhouse, checking the windows and doors for any signs of the hunters. Lyra moved silently in the coop, her large eyes scanning the horizon. Something in the air made her tense. Her skin shimmered faintly, reflecting the moonlight. James noticed. "What is it?" he asked, gripping the handle of an old flashlight. "They are coming," Lyra whispered, closer than before. Suddenly, a distant hum filled the sky, a low, metallic vibration that seemed to resonate in James's chest. He froze, eyes wide. The hum grew louder, more urgent. From the tree line, bright lights appeared, floating above the fields. Drones. More than last time. They moved like predators, silent and precise. Lyra stepped forward, her long fingers tracing patterns in the dirt. The symbols glowed brighter than before, forming a protective barrier around the coop. "It will hold. For now," she said, her voice steady but tense. James watched in awe as the drones hovered near, scanning, searching, testing. One of them shot a beam of light across the coop. Lyra raised her hands and the light bent away, unable to penetrate. The chickens clucked nervously, sensing the danger. Then, without warning, one drone fired a pulse. The dirt around the coop shook, and a small explosion sent straw flying. James ducked, heart pounding. They're attacking!" Lyra's eyes glowed intensely. She leapt forward, her hands raised. Energy surged from her palms in waves, forming a shimmering dome over the coop. The pulse from the drone bounced off the dome harmlessly, scattering sparks into the air. James couldn't believe what he was seeing. She was powerful, stronger than he had imagined. The drone swarmed closer, relentless. Lyra moved with speed and precision, her hands tracing new patterns faster than the eye could follow. The symbols in the dirt burned with energy, creating a shield that flickered like liquid metal. One drone tried to break through, but Lyra touched it with her fingertips. It sparked violently and fell from the sky, broken. James watched, a mix of fear and awe gripping him. How are you doing this?" Lyra glanced at him briefly, eyes fierce. "I protect. I survive, and you? You must stay back." One of the drones fired a new weapon, a bright, glowing net that shot toward the coop. James held his breath. Lyra moved swiftly, stepping into the path of the net. She waved her hand and the net froze in midair, then shattered into tiny sparks. The sound was deafening. James realized that Lyra was not just hiding, she was fighting. Fighting to survive. Fighting for him, the farm, and something far greater than either of them could understand. But the hunters were smart. From the edge of the field, a larger drone emerged, its design more advanced, more dangerous. Lyra's protective dome flickered under its approach. "This one is stronger," she muttered, tension in her voice. "I cannot hold it for long." James's stomach twisted. "Then what do we do?" Lyra took a deep breath. "We survive. Together." She grabbed his arm and in a blur moved him behind a stack of crates. "Stay close. And trust me." The large drone fired a beam of energy that hit the dome with a loud crack. Sparks flew. The chickens scattered in panic. Lyra's skin glowed brightly as she pushed back with all her strength, forcing the drone to retreat for a moment. But James could see it. This was only the beginning. The night air smelled of ozone and rain. The first attack had come, and James understood one terrifying truth. The hunters would not stop until they found Lyra, or destroyed her. As the drones disappeared into the shadows, Lyra crouched beside James, breathing heavily. "This was just a warning," she said softly. "They will return, stronger, smarter, and next time, they may not be so easy to stop." James swallowed hard. His quiet life on the farm was gone. The alien mother hiding in the chicken coop had just revealed a war far beyond his imagination, and now they were both in it, the great escape. The night air was thick with tension. James could feel his heart hammering in his chest as he peered through the rain-soaked field. The drones had returned, faster, smarter, and more dangerous than before. Lyra stood beside him, her eyes glowing faintly in the darkness, her long fingers tracing symbols in the dirt. Each symbol pulsed with light, creating a flickering barrier that shimmered like liquid glass. "They are close," she whispered. "We cannot stay. If we wait, they will trap us." James swallowed hard. "Then we run?" Lyra nodded. "We escape. There is a place, a safe haven, but we must be quick." Without another word, she grabbed his arm and darted toward the edge of the forest. James stumbled to keep up, mud sucking at his boots. Every sound, the rustle of leaves, the distant hum of drones, made his stomach twist with fear. Behind them, the faint metallic buzz of the hunters grew louder, closer. "Can your shield hold?" James asked, glancing back at the coop now a few hundred feet away. "For a little while," Lyra replied, "but it cannot last. They will break through soon." Suddenly, a bright beam of light cut across the field. One of the drones had spotted them. James ducked instinctively, feeling heat brush past his shoulder. Lyra moved swiftly, placing her hands on the ground. The dirt glowed, symbols flashing in rapid sequences. The beam bent around them, unable to touch their bodies, and the drones faltered for just a moment. "That's enough time for the portal," Lyra said, her voice urgent. "Follow me and do exactly as I do." James nodded, though fear clenched his stomach. Lyra led him through a narrow path in the forest, their feet slipping over roots and wet leaves. The air smelled of rain and electricity, and every shadow seemed alive. Behind them, a drone fired a net of energy which shattered against Lyra's protective glow. "They are relentless," James gasped, running beside her. "How can we possibly escape them?" Lyra didn't answer. She only moved faster, her eyes fixed on a faint shimmer ahead. A small clearing opened before them, and in the center a strange floating device hovered a few feet above the ground. Its surface was smooth and metallic, covered in alien symbols that pulsed with soft blue light. "The portal," Lyra whispered. "Step inside. Quickly." James hesitated for a split second, but a sudden screech of a drone snapped him into motion. He followed Lyra into the glowing device. The symbols flared, the air vibrated, and for a brief moment he felt weightless, as if the world had dissolved around him. Then, with a sudden pull, they were gone from the forest. James blinked. The world around him had changed. They were in a cavern of soft light, walls shimmering with alien energy. Lyra looked at him, her expression both relieved and wary. "We are safe. For now," she said softly. But James could still feel it. The tension in the air, the distant hum of the hunters. They had escaped the immediate threat, yes, but the danger was far from over. The hunters would not stop. They would find a way, and next time it could be worse. What is this place?" James asked, his voice echoing slightly in the glowing cavern. "A sanctuary," Lyra explained. "My people built it. Few know of its location. It is hidden from the hunters, at least temporarily. We can rest, but only briefly. We must prepare for what comes next." James looked around, awed by the alien technology, the pulsing symbols, and the faint hum of energy filling the cavern. It was beautiful, strange, and terrifying all at once. He realized how small Earth was compared to the universe he had glimpsed through Lyra. Lyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have done well," she said. "You survived and you trusted me. That is rare for humans." James nodded, breathing heavily. I didn't know I could do it, but I trust you." For the first time, Lyra smiled. It was faint, but real. "Then we are ready. Tomorrow we plan our next move. But tonight, rest. You have earned it." Outside, the rain fell gently over the farm, unaware that its quiet life had already changed forever. James and Lyra had escaped, but the hunters were still out there, waiting, patient and relentless. And James knew deep in his bones that the final confrontation was coming, and nothing would ever be the same again. New beginnings, the sanctuary hummed softly with alien energy, bathing James and Lyra in a gentle, shimmering light. Outside, the rain fell quietly over the farm, washing away the chaos of the previous nights. Inside, for the first time since Lyra arrived, there was a calm, fragile but real. James leaned against one of the glowing walls, still catching his breath from their escape. "We made it," he whispered, almost disbelievingly. I can't believe we made it." Lyra smiled faintly, her large eyes reflecting the pulsing lights around them. "We survived because we trusted each other," she said softly. "The hunters, they will return. But for now we are safe." James looked at her, really looked, and realized how extraordinary she was. Her shimmering skin, her delicate but powerful hands, the strange patterns that seemed alive beneath her fingers. It was unlike anything he had ever imagined. Yet beneath it all she was tired, vulnerable, and hopeful. "Lyra, what now?" James asked. "Where will you go?" Lyra turned, gazing toward a faint glow at the far end of the sanctuary. "Home, to my people. I must warn them. The hunters, they are relentless. They will not stop until every one of us is found." Her voice was steady, but James could hear the weight of fear beneath it. He nodded slowly, understanding that their time together was coming to an end. Will you come back?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lyra's eyes softened. "I promise. I will return. But first I must survive. I must protect them. And you indirectly by stopping the hunters from reaching here." James swallowed hard. "I never thought I'd be part of something like this, and yet, here I am." Lyra stepped closer and touched his shoulder gently. Her fingers shimmered faintly, leaving a warm glow that lingered for a moment. "You have changed, James. You have courage. And heart. Most humans would have run or turned away. You stayed. You helped me survive. That is rare." He smiled faintly, though sadness tugged at him. I will never forget this. You've changed my life." Lyra nodded, stepping toward the portal device at the center of the sanctuary. It pulsed softly, waiting. "And you have changed mine, James. You reminded me that trust and hope can exist even in the darkest moments." The air shimmered around Lyra as she prepared to leave. James watched, heart heavy as her form began to blur slightly, the light bending around her. For a moment he feared he might never see her again. Then she spoke, her voice echoing softly, almost carried by the energy itself. "Remember, James, life is not always about waiting for the storm to pass. Sometimes it is about learning to dance in the rain, protect what you love, trust your instincts, and never forget, we are not alone in this universe." Before James could respond, she stepped into the portal. The air rippled, and in an instant she was gone. The sanctuary fell silent, the soft hum fading to a gentle pulse. James stood alone for a long moment, the weight of everything pressing on him. The farm would never feel the same again. The quiet fields, the chicken coop, they were symbols now of something far bigger than he could ever fully understand. He realized that even though Lyra was gone, her presence lingered, in the lessons she had taught him, in the courage she had awakened, and in the hope that connection could survive even in the face of the universe's dangers. Days passed. James returned to the farm, tending to the chickens and the fields. Life went on, but he noticed the subtle changes. The chickens seemed calmer, the crops a little healthier, the wind carrying a faint hum he couldn't explain. It was as if Lyra's energy had left a mark, a reminder that even strangers from distant stars could touch life in ways unimaginable. At night, James would look at the stars, searching for the faint shimmer of Lyra's presence. And sometimes, just sometimes, he thought he saw her silhouette among the constellations, watching over him. The hunters may still exist, the universe may still be dangerous, but James had learned something invaluable. Bravery, trust, and connection could create hope even in the darkest times, and with that hope, life and new beginnings were always possible. James smiled, finally understanding. The storm had passed, but the adventure, the story, had only just begun.